The room isn't loud. No music demanding attention. No performance happening. You're just standing there, not trying to be seen, not reaching. And then it happens. Her hand moves, not nervously, not accidentally. Slow, almost thoughtful, and she touches one specific place. Not intimate in the obvious way, not dramatic, not sexual on the surface, yet something in the air changes. You feel it before you understand it. Because this touch isn't about attraction the way most people think of it. It's not desire chasing pleasure. It's recognition finding a point of contact. Picture this moment clearly. Her fingers rest briefly on your forearm. Not your chest, not your back. Your forearm. The place that moves when you act. The place that carries intention, not display. She doesn't squeeze. She doesn't linger too long. And that's exactly why it matters. Because when a woman touches you there, it isn't impulse. It's unconscious permission. Most people believe attraction is loud, obvious, immediate. They're wrong. Real attraction is quiet, delayed, it echoes. And the forearm, this specific place, is where presence lives. Not dominance, not charm. Presence. Now listen carefully. This isn't about touch as a signal. It's about what had to exist before the touch ever happened. She didn't reach for validation. She didn't reach for reassurance. She reached because something in you felt solid. Not impressive, not entertaining. Solid. You didn't try to be understood. You were. And that's dangerous, because being admired keeps people safe. Being understood makes them exposed. Admiration says, I like what you show. Recognition says, I see what you hide. That's the difference. And when someone feels seen at that level, the body reacts before the mind can intervene. The forearm touch is grounding, anchoring. It's the nervous system saying, this feels familiar, even if I don't know why. Not this, not flirting, not this, not testing, not this, not play. This is quieter than that. This is her body checking whether your presence feels real enough to rest against. And here's the part no one tells you. Attraction doesn't peak in the moment. It begins there. Later, when she's alone, your stillness replays. Your restraint echoes. She remembers how you didn't lean in, didn't fill the silence, didn't take. And that memory grows heavier than the moment itself. This is delayed attraction. The kind that forms when nothing obvious happened. Yet, everything did. Because vulnerability doesn't come from giving attention. It comes from feeling safe enough to reveal it. And safety isn't created by effort. It's created by emotional accuracy. You weren't trying to be interesting. You were precise. You didn't mirror her emotions. You held your own. And that's why the touch happened without conscious choice. This is the quiet danger of being understood. Once someone feels that kind of recognition, they don't crave your approval. They crave the state they felt near you. And that craving doesn't announce itself. It waits. It deepens. It returns when they least expect it. So if you've ever wondered why certain moments linger longer than they should, why some connections grow stronger in silence, it's because attraction doesn't grow in what's exchanged. It grows in what was felt and left unresolved. After the touch, after the moment passes, after nothing seems to happen. This is where the real shift occurs. Because what she touched wasn't your skin, it was your response. Or more precisely, your lack of one. You didn't flinch, you didn't lean in, you didn't claim the moment, you let it exist. And that restraint rewired the meaning of the interaction. Most people rush to close the loop. They label it, they secure it. But the mind doesn't attach to what's complete. It attaches to what's unfinished. So while she walked away appearing calm, something stayed open. Not desire, not fantasy, curiosity. The kind that isn't loud enough to notice, but heavy enough to return. This is the quiet truth that breaks the common belief. Attraction doesn't come from being wanted. It comes from being felt and not fully understood. You didn't give her something to chase. You gave her something to figure out. And the mind hates unresolved emotional data. Later, when the world slows down, she remembers how your presence didn't demand anything. No urgency, no hunger, just a grounded stillness that didn't ask to be chosen. And here's where it deepens. Because recognition doesn't create comfort. It creates vulnerability. When someone feels seen, they become aware of parts of themselves they hadn't named. That awareness is destabilizing, safe, but unsettling. She begins to notice how she adjusted around you, how her tone softened, how her body leaned before her thoughts caught up. And that realization forms attachment without permission. Not because you pulled her in, but because she stepped closer to herself near you. This is the echo effect, attraction that grows in memory, not proximity. She doesn't replay what you said. She replays how she felt being unguarded without trying. And the danger, subtle, emotional, undeniable, is this. Once someone associates emotional clarity with your presence, distance doesn't weaken the bond. It sharpens it, because now you're no longer a person. You're a reference point. The contrast between noise and silence, between surface connection and depth, between admiration that fades and recognition that stays. And here's the part that most never understand. You didn't create this by being mysterious, or controlled, or strategic. You created it by being internally aligned. Your words matched your energy. Your silence had weight. Your attention wasn't searching. That coherence is rare, and rarity creates gravity. So when she touched your forearm, her nervous system wasn't asking, "Do I like him?" It was asking something far more intimate. "Can I be real here?" And the answer, felt, not spoken, was yes. That yes doesn't disappear. It waits. It surfaces in moments of quiet. In comparisons she didn't intend to make. In absences that feel louder than presence. This is how attachment forms without pursuit. Not through intensity, but through emotional accuracy. You didn't pull her closer. You made closeness possible. And once someone experiences that, everything else feels slightly hollow. This isn't about being unforgettable. It's about being unmistakable, long after the touch, long after the interaction has ended. This is where attraction stops feeling like desire and starts feeling like gravity. She doesn't think about you constantly. That would be obvious, predictable. Instead, you appear in the margins of her mind, in pauses, in moments where nothing is happening. That's how you know it's real. Because the mind doesn't obsess over what it understands. It circles what altered its internal balance. You became a quiet interruption, not because of what you did, but because of what you didn't need. You didn't need reassurance. You didn't need momentum. You didn't need her reaction to confirm your place. And that absence of need created a subtle pressure, not force, contrast. She starts noticing how often attention feels performative elsewhere, how conversations demand energy, how presence feels transactional. And then, without trying, she remembers how little effort it took to exist near you. That memory carries weight, because effortlessness is mistaken for safety, but it's actually something deeper. It's emotional permission. When someone feels they don't have to manage you, entertain you, or protect themselves from your expectations, their nervous system relaxes, and relaxed systems bond. This is the unsettling truth. Attachment doesn't form through intensity. It forms through relief. Relief from being watched. Relief from being evaluated. Relief from being needed. You weren't consuming her presence. You were unaffected by it. And that made her more aware of her own. This is where vulnerability quietly enters. Not through confession, not through closeness, but through self-recognition. She realizes she showed up more honestly around you, less edited, less armored. And the mind asks a dangerous question. Why did I feel safe enough to do that? Once that question exists, the attachment has already begun. Because now you're associated with a version of herself she doesn't access easily. Not happier, not excited, more real. And here's the paradox. You didn't try to understand her. You simply weren't distorted. Your responses were clean. Your presence wasn't seeking outcome. And clarity is magnetic. Not this. Not emotional availability as performance. Not this. Not validation disguised as depth. Not this. Not intensity masquerading as connection. This is different. This is impact without intrusion. She may not label it attraction. She may not feel desire in the traditional sense. But something shifts in how she measures connection. Others feel louder, faster, easier, but thinner. You feel quiet, slow, and dense. And density is what the mind returns to. Over time, she notices something else. When she thinks about you, there's no anxiety, no spike, no urgency, just a grounded pull. That's when attraction crosses into attachment. Not because she wants you, but because her body remembers how it felt to be herself near you. This is why distance doesn't dissolve the bond. Silence feeds it. Because silence gives memory room to grow. And every time she compares, without meaning to, your presence becomes the baseline. Not as fantasy, as truth. This is the final danger of being understood. Once someone associates you with internal alignment, they don't seek you out consciously. They wait to feel that way again. And that waiting is where attachment lives. You didn't promise anything. You didn't offer certainty. You simply existed without distortion. And that lingers longer than desire ever could, because it isn't about her anymore. It's about what you represent inside her inner world. By now, attraction has stopped behaving like emotion. It's become orientation. She doesn't miss you the way people miss excitement. She misses the alignment, the way her thoughts slowed near you, the way she didn't rehearse herself, the way her body felt unobserved, yet fully received. That experience rewires something subtle. From this point forward, connection is no longer about chemistry. It's about coherence. Others may still interest her, still attract her attention, still create sparks. But sparks burn fast. What you created was a reference, a quiet standard her nervous system now compares everything to. This is why the bond doesn't feel dramatic, why it doesn't demand action, why it doesn't push her toward you. It pulls her away from what feels misaligned, and that's far more powerful. Because now attraction isn't chasing pleasure, it's avoiding distortion. She notices when conversations feel forced, when interest feels performative, when attention comes with expectation. And without consciously choosing it, her body rejects those states. Not because they're wrong, but because they're louder than truth. This is the deepest form of influence, not changing how someone feels about you, but changing how they feel about everything else. You became associated with internal honesty, and honesty is addictive in a world built on performance. This is why attachment forms without pursuit. You didn't make her feel special, you made her feel accurate, and accuracy removes confusion. It doesn't excite the ego, it steadies the identity. That's why the bond feels calm, why it feels inevitable rather than urgent. It's not longing, it's alignment seeking itself again. If she reaches out later, it won't be impulsive, it won't be dramatic, it will feel obvious. As if the distance simply clarified what was already true. And if she doesn't, if life moves in other directions, the imprint still remains. You don't disappear from memory. You become a silent comparison point. The moment where connection stopped feeling noisy and started feeling real. This is the quiet consequence of being understood. It doesn't create obsession. It creates orientation. And orientation shapes choices long after emotion fades. That's why this kind of attraction is rare, and why it can't be forced or learned as a tactic. It comes from inner alignment that doesn't need to be seen, to be felt, and that's what makes it linger. If this resonated in a way you didn't expect, if it named something you've felt but never articulated, this channel exists for that reason. Not tricks, not tactics, but emotional science, psychological truth, and the quiet mechanics of desire beneath awareness. Subscribe if you want to understand attraction at the level where it actually forms.